Awesome. So if you want to read for us, that'd be
Sure, yeah. So
perfect.
this is a poem. We were talking about that. So yeah, Catacombs of the Heart. This is a real picture of the French catacombs, and it was
Very
in
cool.
kind of the emoji shape of a heart, the skulls, which always kind of blew me away that like back
Yeah.
all those centuries ago, the idea of like something that looks kind of like the heart shape as we know it was still around, even though it doesn't
Right.
look like an actual human heart.
Right.
Uh,
That's wild.
don't know more answers about that, except that this is like kind of a dead end wall in the Paris catacombs where someone, centuries ago arranged skulls with bones around them. So it's kind of a
Uh-huh.
fascinating photo.
Yeah, that is.
Catacombs for me are kind of like a repository of all the things we live and go through. So I thought it was like an apt name for a poetry collection. So we were talking about grievances. Passwords have driven me crazy, as I'm sure everybody. So I decided to kind of write a little poem on passwords here.
Very cool.
This password. Sorry, your password does not contain one of the following. Your password must contain a capital letter, two numbers, an exclamation point, a decimal, an M dash, three ampersands, the initials of your high school crush, the code from your first bike lock, a Van Halen reference, a Shakespearean sonnet, a Biggie verse, a symbol from the periodic table, the latitude of your first kiss, the longitude of your last one, an introspective look at Plato's Apology, your driver's license number divided by 12, Maya Angelou's birthday, Rumi's favorite prime number, the amount of eggs in your grandma's bun cake, the dollar amount left by the tooth fairy for your first molar, a Bible verse from Corinthians, the waist size of your father's lees, your grandfather's diastolic blood pressure, your heart rate when you lost your virginity, your high score on Ms. Pac-Man, the number of brooches owned by your mother, the size of the first bra you unhooked, the highway on which you received your first DUI, the amount of times you bought flowers instead of apologizing, postal address of the first house you egged, the number of ingredients in your special barbecue rub, the horsepower of a 65 Thunderbird, the number of pages in White Fang, the GPA of that foreign exchange student you cheated off of in math class, the ring size of your ex-wife, the day she began to feel unloved, the time of day she called and said she wanted to meet at the park, the sum of money her macchiato cost, the time she took, in seconds, to tell you she no longer loved you, the speed at which she pulled away from the curb, the amount of times you've thought about her since. Sorry, your password does not contain one of the following. Please try again. Sorry, that exceeds 3 attempts. Please try again later. Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thanks so much.
Um, you know what I like so much about that is, and I love this in writing in general. So maybe you had me at hello. Um, was the it seems like we're going somewhere lighthearted, and then you
Yeah.
get to somewhere with a ton of heart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that always gets me because at least um I think a lot of times with writing and things like not just writing, just art in general, we try
Yeah.
too hard to elicit a response
Yeah.
versus like inviting someone to just kind of start experiencing something with us, kind of like, like,
Well said. Yeah.
yeah, like where are we? And then you can kind of like, oh yeah, like even if we haven't been divorced before, we can identify with that loss, like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I had all this going on. And that laundry list of it is that, especially Jesus, America, especially in California in general, so much going on. Like it is
Yeah.
so easy to be overwhelmed. And every password is an overwhelming experience at this point. And
It's
to
true.
capture it in that is
So
brilliant. It
good.
was really, really
Thank you so
lovely.
much. Yeah, I look for those little, like I guess the poetic term is a volta, right? When like tone shifts or whatever, kind of the turning
Hmm.
point, having in any sort of literature, be it kids book or screenplay or any sort of art form, like kind of inviting someone in and like,
Hmm.
especially in poetry, I'm always thinking like I wish poetry were more readily consumed,
Sure.
but I think it's not the most inviting art form. And there's something
Right.
um some poets kind of take it as an insult when someone says your poem is accessible or palatable or easily approachable. I love that stuff. I remember my barber who says he hasn't read a book since like junior high, bought my poetry books and loved them. And he's like, this was really fun. Like, I didn't know poetry could be
Hmm.
like that. To me, that's the highest compliment you can receive, because I try to make those opening lines in a lot of poems very accessible. And you invite someone into the house, and then you get them so far away from the front door that they can't really turn back. That's kind of the idea, right? Like,
Right.
now they're exploring the rooms with you, and
Hmm.
you're not you know, and they're just going on the journey. And I think
Right.
sometimes the front door is like, it's open, but there's a guy with a machete, and people are like, oh yeah, it's hard, I don't really want to navigate this like huge
Sure.
poem where every line I have to stop and go, what does that mean, what does that mean? I don't want you to have to worry about what anything means. I want you to be able to like go through it. And yeah,
Right.
sure, certainly a certain amount of dissection is great, you know, like
Sure.
you totally nailed it. And it's like your work as well, you know, where I'm able to read it on a multitude of levels, easy access, a nice conversation, or, you know, a simple mundane moment in someone's day. And I feel very much on the ride with them. It's almost like I'm not reading the story. I'm just
Hmm.
going in, right? I'm not consciously thinking I'm reading a Bill Hinsey story. I'm just kind
Hmm.
of like
Sure.
settling into a world. And that's always exciting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's really well said. And it's I feel like a lot of poetry,
Yeah.
um, it almost got classist, right? Like there was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the highest form, and now there's keep out signs out,
Yeah. I agree with you.
and
And it's
it shouldn't be. Right?
no,
And it never was meant to be. It's meant to
no.
be for the people, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, Langston Hughes, I've just finished a poetry collection. It'll be like my third overall. And I feel like I really got what I wanted to do in this poetry collection. And I was thinking about epigraphs. And there's one that I found about from Langston Hughes about poetry. The problem with poetry is it's aimed at the minds of highbrows instead of the hearts of humanity. And I'm
yeah,
like,
that's
man, he wrote
beautiful,
that like 100 years ago, and we're
right?
still doing the same crap, you know?
Right. Yep.
You read about, you know, his staircase poem, and you read Thank You, Ma'am, his short story that I love and I teach. Like,
Hmm.
he was super accessible,
Right.
and he wrote in a way that was like, you know, the common voice at the time in his neighborhood and where he was from. And it was
Hmm.
like very fun to read. He wasn't trying to blow you away with flash, but grab you with substance, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's where you can actually affect people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's if I want to get you to win you over to my side, whatever that might be, whatever like theme I'm
Yeah.
trying to convey or whatever, maybe I'm just trying to get
Yeah.
you to feel something. That's usually me. I'm not.
Trying to get you to,
Uh,
yeah. Trying to get you
yeah.
to get come on the ride with me. Let's see what happens,
Right.
you know. If
Yeah.
you just laugh at that poem, right? If you just read it and you're like, oh my God, the GPA, that's fine. That's like a totally
Hmm.
valid experience, you know. I've
Right.
read that to high schoolers and they giggle, and it does
Hmm.
take a little turn, but like if the turn isn't for you, it's
Right.
fine. You can walk away from that and just say, like, well, I got a good
Right.
chuckle, you know.
Yep.
So
And then you might walk away and have that good chuckle, and later on, this
yeah,
thing lingers with you, and then you're, oh, that meant a little bit more than that, right? And
yeah.
you like,
Or think of a
yeah.
line and go, oh yeah, it shifts here, or there's a tone of despair, you know, like yeah,
Right. Yeah, and then you really get it, like, oh, that's life, right? It's
yeah,
despair, it's chuckling, it's all the
that's
above.
true.
It's the mundane, changing your goddamn password all
Yeah,
the time,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. To
the
something that can be
difference.
painful, you know. Sometimes I've had like some sort of sentimental connection to the password, and it like, you know,
Uh,
it breaks your heart. You're typing in the name of like a goldfish or something that passed, or you
uh,
know,
yeah,
and you're
I know,
15
really,
and you're like, oh, that's sad. Why am I typing Oscar? You know? Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. So, what, like, for you,
yeah.
what's the role of the writer? And I know it can be different for everyone. Disclaimers aside, but just for you, like what do you see yourself as a writer? Like, what is that role?
That is such a deep question. Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit ever changing for me. I sometimes I really want it to feel like we're talking about super profound, right? Um, there is something about every artist where they're like, wow, I really want to be validated in terms of like being life changing or whatever. But as I've kind of gotten a little bit older, written some different genres, I'm very much at peace with just being enjoyed. You know,
Sure.
I think life is brutish and difficult for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and uh, like a book and literature or even, a movie, it's an investment in someone's time.
Hmm.
It's not a bottle of wine that they're just cracking open and they're consuming while they can do other things. But no, like we're asking for someone's undivided attention. It's hard to read a novel or whatever, and have like the other, be driving or something, right? You have to
Right.
be
True.
totally, and not
Hopefully
in
you're
a way,
not doing that.
yeah. I would take that as a very high compliment. However, if I saw someone just crashing into people, but reading my novel, I would probably be like, "That's a complicated. Don't judge. That's a complicated man.
All right. Yeah. Careening through the farmer's
He
market,
has
reading
layers. Yes, let's not
heaven and
be
other
judging.
zip codes. Like, all right,
Yeah,
yeah, let's give that
yeah. I
guy a
mean, he
break.
obviously, yeah, he's a deep thinker. Um, no, but I feel like there's such an investment in someone's time that I'm okay with being like, a piece of dessert at the end of the night where someone's just had a
Yeah.
hard day and they get into bed and they go, okay, I'm going to read a short story from Los Angeles or a section from Heaven, and it just brings them some joy and
Right.
some relaxation, maybe kind of changes just a touch how they're thinking or viewing the world, or they're intrigued by the voice and they're maybe a touch more compassionate. I think at the root of all writing is a lot of compassion. You're
Absolutely.
putting yourself in other people's shoes. I
Hmm.
started a kind of a YA novel last week, and I'm writing it's called On the Lam, and it's about a prisoner who's escaped from prison who develops a little bit of a bond with these two children. And I want people to go like, oh man, this person did something horrible, 15, 20 years ago, but do we really believe in forgiveness and, in someone
Right.
being reformed or whatever that means?
Sure.
Or,
Yeah.
are some things so egregious we can't move on? Or
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, so
that's a brilliant question is, do we believe in redemption?
mhm.
You know,
I don't
I
know if we do really, like for
yeah,
certain things we do.
that's
It seems like there's
absolutely
a line we cross and we just don't let you back over. We'll let you
right.
get close to the line again, but
Right.
you're always an outsider. The wall's always there.
Hmm.
And
Right.
and I think if anyone's gonna see through that, it's children. That's why I decided to kind of
Sure.
write it from a teenage girl who's wise behind her years. She's 13 or so. And um I think, children are a little more open-minded. They're judging
Hmm.
someone in the now and how they're
Sure.
behaving. They're not looking back to a time before they were born. So
Right.
I thought that was kind of, but I think that maybe, yeah, maybe that's it. I'm okay being the cookie after the end of a long day. I'm
Sure.
like very grateful for that. I think that
Right.
it's an investment in someone's time. When someone tells me they've read my book like that, or even
Oh,
a story or a poem, I'm like,
right.
it's an amazing gesture,
It
right?
is.
To pick up a book, a page, and spend time with me in a way that's like really connected to my soul. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's such an honor, like, for people to spend their time with you. That's what I always
Absolutely.
get back to. It's like, like you to stop whatever you're doing and spend a little time with me. Something
Yeah.
I created, or even just on this show. I almost
Yeah.
every episode will say I'm honored to have you on here because I
Hmm.
am, because everyone's taking some time out. And I know everyone's got lives, you all have things going on. And anytime we do it, because I mean, at the end of the day, time is the most valuable thing, right? Every rich person's always realized it. Every emperor, every person, power
Yeah.
level, poor, like impoverished, every single spectrum has realized
Yeah.
time's that's the thing. That's the commodity. That's the most important. And for someone to take that time to read it is it's beautiful. Like, it's
It really
really
is.
lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many forms like we were talking about of media now, and you
Right.
know, like there's just new networks every day with someone telling me a new
Hmm.
show, an actor
Right.
I've never heard of, um, and it just becomes kind of, and even with books, I feel like I don't know what happened, but there's just so many books. I think
Just a
maybe
thousand
the
books
like
a day, right? Like,
I feel like yeah, I mean you have this kind of this people who self-publish now, so they just kind of
right.
jump and throw their books up on Amazon, and it feels like wow, that there's like a lot more books than I've ever
Hmm.
expected.
Right.
So someone to say like, yeah, I'm going to kick back and I'm going to trust this writer and like go on the journey. It's like,
Hmm.
it's amazing. And then to have
Yeah.
like repeat business, that also is great, right? Someone who
Yeah.
buys
Yeah.
poetry book or buys one
Yeah.
of my kids' books and then buys the second kid's book, you're like, that's the highest form of praise, that I
It
try to,
really is.
yeah, I try to keep an eye on that because you had money, adulation, that stuff's all exciting. but being read and like being in people's hands and connecting with them on some level is like it's really touching.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And what's great about it, I mean, for our audience, right? Like you've won
Yeah.
awards. I mean, I always look everyone up a little bit, and we've talked.
Sure.
We're
Sure.
in South Carolina, like we mentioned for the audience, the Short Story
Sure.
America Festival, and um,
Yeah.
so I know
And
about you in
likewise, you've
general,
won many awards.
right? But it's like it's beautiful that that's not the thing you talk about because,
Yeah.
and I relate so much, because that's not the thing. Like that is
No,
fleeting. It feels cool for a moment, especially
it
early
does.
on. It gives you some validation, like,
Yes.
oh, I can do this, and
Yes. Pats on the back are important, no doubt about it,
right,
right?
yeah, and especially early on, right? Like, kind of,
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
so much people trying to do this. Someone giving you that extra bit gives you that extra, belief
I
in yourself.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. That's beautiful, but it's beautiful that you've come to the no. What's actually most important is just individual readers. Is that connection that's someone taking some time and then going, oh, this was meaningful to me. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You're meaningful to me as an artist, and now
Yeah.
I'm going to come back and read more.
Yeah.
That's
It
the
is
best.
amazing.
Yeah, and that's what inspired me to do this show, was that I wanted to get to the not just for me, is I wanted to shed light on
Well, that's
you and these other
yeah.
writers. It's just
That's
I
so
want people
generous
to
too,
come
because
to it, and
yeah, and you were saying like all the writers that you're honored to have the guests on, right? It's definitely mutual, because just to have someone kind of like the validation of someone saying, "Oh, this is an artist that's like worthy to be talked to right now." That is
Mhm.
always it always feels great, because we go,
Right.
well, we're going to maybe be exposed to new people, reach like a little bit broader circle. Maybe maybe someone will spend time with me. Maybe someone will pick up a book, or
Yeah,
or at least know who I was, or listen to something, or make them
yeah.
think. That's a really important moment. Yeah, and I think I tell students and young writers all the time to submit a lot and get their work out there. But what is like perpetually fascinating is how a story can win an award, but also be denied at like 65 other presses, And it's
Right,
something
yeah,
I always think about, like that, how stuff connects with it's such a subjective art form.
it really is.
Like, this story is what we nominated for our pushcart prize. This
Right,
story is not what we nominated. It's just so subjective. That's like,
right,
at some point it doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
And you just go like, yeah, it's like Matt just developing claustrophobia in his 30, like when he was 35, or the toads
Right,
and frogs. It's just like one of those
yeah.
things where you're like, okay, there's just a little bit of magic and incomprehensible nature to these things, that
Mhm.
you just have to write what you feel, what you're doing, what to the very best of your ability, and then yeah, get it out there, have the confidence and courage to like push it out there and not be dismayed at the rejection, because it's just part of it. It's just part of the process. And I don't know, it doesn't ever come easy to anybody. I feel like, even the successful people, when they talk about it. So
Right.
I've seen it happen many times, where someone will have a book rejected or whatever 50 times, and then boom, 51, and now it's book of the year on the NPR or whatever. And you go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
It's just the way it
that's
gets,
the
like
life.
sports, right? You draft a guy in the second round, he ends up being like the best player of their Tom Brady in
Yeah,
the sixth round,
yeah.
or yeah, it happens.
I know.
So
Yeah.
like, who
And
knows
don't
what
don't bring
draft
up Tom
people.
Brady on this show. I'm
Yeah,
a
I'm sorry.
Steeler fan. We
Yeah,
can't talk.
that's true. That's true. I
But
agree.
no, the point's
I'm
very
not a
valid.
Tom. I'm an LA guy. I was a Raider guy. I'm still a Raider guy, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
um, yeah. But you think, man, a lot of
Right.
teams passed on this guy that would have changed our life.
For sure. For
Who
sure.
knows what? And there's a lot of magic that we're just not able to comprehend. So just do your best, get it out there, and just
Right.
move forward. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Just I always say keep laying brick. Right. Like, you want to build the
absolutely.
fence, you're laying brick, and it's just a pain. And you don't
Yeah,
know, but at the end, you're gonna have a beautiful house,
yeah,
fence, whatever you're building. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing what
yeah.
you believe in, and um,
Absolutely. And while you're
especially
writing
this.
something, keep writing something else, or after you're done
Yeah.
and it's submitting. Like, don't
Keep
just
going.
go, okay, I finished that short story I love.
Right.
Now I'm gonna send out
Right.
20 and check my email compulsively. No, don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
moving
Don't.
on the next thing. Keep laying the brick.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't write one short story and submit it and be like, oh, I'm
Yep,
done. That's gonna be made into a
that's it.
movie one day.
I'm gonna kick back and just enjoy as the awards come rolling in. Yeah, you have to fall in love with actually writing and
You
expressing
do.
yourself. That's the best part. If the awards mean more to you than the writing, you're in trouble.
You
And
are.
thank God, like I've like we both won some awards and it feels nice. And like you said, it's kind of like bubble gum, right? It tastes really good, but then 6 hours later, the flavor is completely gone.
Right.
And you realize, oh no, but I just like writing. So that's good. I
Mm-hmm.
got a story back at home. I'll get back to work. Yeah.
And you're back at it. Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
beautiful. So, and I know, to let everyone behind the scenes a little, you need to
Sure.
make dinner because your wife's going to be hungry.
That's right. Right.
And we want to make sure she gets fed
She
here. So,
decides she does not eat lunch. I have a wife who is surprised that her body wants food after 12 hours of not eating. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, the last question I like to ask everyone on
Sure.
here is just, what's a life hack? What's something like, what's a lesson? What's something you can impart upon the audience, in general, writers, regular people, readers, whoever's reading, that they can start doing tomorrow and start making their life just a little bit better.
Oh,
Small, big, it doesn't have to be
sure.
super
This
profound.
sounds kind of dumb, but I've put in a lot of work here. I have two things. So the first thing is first thing in the morning, go out and get some fresh air. I did this all of 2022. And so like
Hmm.
first when I wake up in the morning, granted I'm in Southern California, so it makes it a little easier. But
Sure.
even if I did spend a little time in like New England and stuff and I was able to make it work, just like let fresh air be the first thing of your day, maybe use the restroom, go outside. Don't look at the phone, don't look at a screen. Just go outside at 7 a.m. or whatever and just take in the world for a minute. That has
Hmm.
been just a really refreshing way to begin the day. I don't know what it does, but there's some sort of like I have a little balcony and I let sun kind of hit my face, and it just is a really nice moment. And that's like the
Hmm.
first thing I do before I feed the cat, before anything. It's like 40 seconds to
Hmm.
like set. And then power is kind of in that same area, the power of a good walk. I've really just been like when life's a little overwhelming, stress, whatever, no phone, put on some shoes and go for like find a little walk by your place that you can maybe drive to. Even better if you just can leave your house. Doesn't have to be the most gorgeous walk or anything. And just
Sure.
like take a walk and kind of enjoy that process. It's done a lot for me. It's like
Hmm.
calm down in a meaningful way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
I read
beautiful.
someone who did it for like an entire year last year. It was like November 20th of 2021. This woman did it, both those things, but the going outside first thing in the morning. And I was like, that seems like easy. I'm going to try that. And I've done it like 90% of the time and really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for that. I think,
Sure.
what's funny is I remember reading the study that talked about that just going outside,
Yeah.
especially when you go the study was more about forest, but it was also partially that there's the pollens, the natural oils in the trees and things. But most neighborhoods have those same things. So
Yes.
you're gonna get some of that. Like
You're going to
just
hit like, yeah, light's going to be on your face. Cause I remember reading 20 minutes of like unadulterated vitamin D, like no sunscreen.
mm-hmm.
And
Right.
a lot for your bones, for your eyes, for your skin, for your immune system. And it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's like breathing in some air. Um, yeah, it's helped me because especially now we're like obsessed with the screen.
Right.
Everything's a screen, so it feels
Right.
nice to
Right.
let your eyes adjust to the world. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been good. And
Yeah.
it's like an easy hack. You can do it tomorrow. You can be like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
listen to that weird writer guy and because I started keeping the phone also in a different room. I used to be a guy who slept with the phone on the nightstand
Sure.
and kind of like my alarm clock and all that. And I just bought an alarm clock, and
Mm-hmm.
battery in it and just put it there. And I was like, all right, I have the time if I need to know what time it is. But it doesn't like take me out of because I've used to be the guy who was like 5 a.m. Oh, I have 3 emails. I rolled over to check the time, but oh wow, and Bill sent me an email and he's upset with me
Yeah.
or whatever it is, right? And and now
Because
he's
I
like,
sent him everyone's
yeah,
just so everyone's clear, I sent him a lot of upset
he
emails.
does.
Like,
And
I'm a
it's always and
monster.
he says them set to go out at 4:50 a.m. But yeah, and it's like we're just pulled into a universe we don't want to be pulled
Yeah.
into. And I
Yeah.
feel like getting the jump of getting a little air and like kind of
Yeah.
regulating your day, being like, no, the phone doesn't tell me like then I'm up. I tell myself, the sun tells me I'm like going to be a human first. And
Mhm.
I'll check
Sure.
that after I've had a coffee, after I've
Right.
kind of gotten situated or whatever. Then yeah, then I feel like a lot more peace and like clarity when I'm checking the email and doing that stuff, so that's good too.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you for that.
No
And thank
problem.
you so much for
Oh,
coming on the
well,
show.
thank you for having me on. I'm really delighted. Cheers to you, and
Yeah, I know. I think
happiest of yeah, I
I'm
hope you have a
mostly
great
out, but I'll
yeah, same here. I basically have some watery sludge, but it's okay.
I'm on 2 cups that I've
Yeah,
finished off as we've been chatting.
this
But
has been
yeah,
great. And getting to know you through, your work and our kind of long friendship through Short Story America has been really great too. So one of these days in LA, we'll have to actually hang out in 3D. That'd be good.
we will. We will. I have to do it. I'll hit you up after the holidays here, and we'll
Sounds great.
have to figure something out.
That would
That'd
be
be
awesome
awesome.
for
Yeah,
sure.
awesome, man. Well, thanks so much again.
Thank
Take
you.
it easy. Make
Yeah.
dinner. Get
Yeah,
on the
get it
good
going.
side here.
Perfect timing by you, by the way. You're landing the plane perfectly. Look at this.
I know. See, I'm getting better at this. I've
I'm
been working
amazed.
on
That's
this thing.
really solid.